Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast. It's your host Akshat, and today's episode is going to be an exciting deep dive into the world of prompt engineering, Gen AI, and LLMs. We have got a fantastic guest lined up for you today. We have Aditya from ShareChat with us. Let's get started and hear from Aditya himself. So, Aditya, how did you get into generative AI, and what is your professional journey, and what got you into AI?
Yes, hi Akshat. Hello everyone. So this is Aditya. I work as MLE in at ShareChat. So I joined basically ShareChat around February 2020. Before that, I was doing my masters from IISc Bangalore. Like just to answer your question about how I started my AI journey. So back in when I was there in my bachelor's, I was doing my BTech. At that time itself, there were like some courses around like basic, I think, data mining, right? So at that time, there were like some concepts around associative learning and how do you calculate stats around data points, and then you like infer some like good information out of it, right? So all of that actually created a lot of curiosity in me to learn more about AI. And back then, uh, like we build a basic model to like extract digits from MNIST data set. So that was, I think, a very basic project everyone does as a like starting point, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was the first project, and then we did basically on the Twitter data sets, right, where we have a lot of tweets. So we were trying to classify the sentiments based on the textual data. So all of that actually started. I mean, there was a curiosity around it, but obviously I didn't go into much depths in my bachelor's. So that's how like I took a break, and basically I went into like doing my master's in at IISc, and therein like I did one research project and multiple courses
Okay.
around ML, and like the kind of the people I met and the kind of discussions we had there was truly amazing around the projects everyone was doing there, right? So that's how like I basically started my journey and continued it. And yeah, like at ShareChat, my primary role is to personalize ads for users. So yeah, I think like therein like we primarily use recommendation systems,
Mhm.
and that involves a lot of different concepts around it. Yeah. So
Okay. Can you tell us about any AI or LM projects that you are currently involved? You mentioned about, ad personalization in ShareChat.
correct,
Can
correct. So at in ad personalization at ShareChat, so we basically started with very basic models like like tree-based models, XGBoost, and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we started with that, and then also had like very basic baseline models, like which are more of stats based, just to compare with. And then eventually we hopped on to like the hype, obviously the deep learning based models. And therein, like we had a lot of different kinds of features for personalizing ads. Like, I mean, like for users, like what's the age range,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the identity, everything, like their context, everything, right? And then what kind of ad we want to rank, right? So all of that information is there. So like just to wrap it up, like broadly, we were using deep learning based. We have been using deep learning based models to
Mm-hmm.
personalize, and like specifically, we have tried a lot of different algorithms there. Like would not I think out that information, but definitely we have tried out a lot of different variants, and all of like done A/B testing, and then like basically Some of them were expanded to all the traffic, and now we are proceeding with some more sophisticated methods, which are more real time and would personalize like like in actually real time. So all of those things are under process as of now. I think within a couple of months we'll have that as well.
Okay. And Aditya, so these generative AI and LLMs are, buzzwords of today, Chat
Yeah.
GPT. So are you doing any LLM projects on the side or like?
Yeah, so like as of now, like I've been using LLMs. I mean, obviously this Chat GPT for at work, like for
Mm-hmm.
every now and then we have, let's say, some queries or like something which we usually used to do Googling, right?
Yeah.
Instead of that, I think we have switched to ChatGPT, as well as Google. Like sometimes I think you don't get a lot of crisp information in ChatGPT. It's more personalized, but
Okay.
sometimes you get a very appropriate answer, and let's say Stack Overflow or some other websites, they're directly listed in under Google, right?
Yeah.
So that's much better. But yeah, like I think in a lot of good cases, like I would say that around 60 to 70% times I get what I want from ChatGPT. So like I have basically asked a lot of like even at debugging part, I've asked a lot of errors, as well as, let's say, some code snippet where I feel that error might have occurred, right? So it reverts back with the appropriate, let's say, the logical error which might have happened,
Okay.
as well as if you want to generate some code which you feel like you don't want to code. So that is where it helps. So all of that part I used to do. Now I think ShareChat has already collaborated with like GitHub Copilot.
Okay.
So we use that in our IDs. So I think that is much simpler now. And
Okay.
yeah, like I think ChatGPT is something which we still use, but I think for some other purposes. So
Okay.
that is there. And then like I would say that around like I plan to use LLMs for some good use cases.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, maybe for audience, I would is encourage that, like one of the use case which I think me and some of my colleagues were discussing was around like um, let's say creating, I mean, something which will be very impactful for audience like in India, right? Like if people are suffering through a lot of, let's say, diseases or things like that,
Yeah.
if somebody would want to search, let's say, I mean, as of now, you search YouTube or you search Google for, these are the symptoms and what kind of medicines, or let's say what kind of, I mean, what exactly is the diagnosis, and let's say what kind of medicines you can take, right? Or
Yeah.
some home remedies, etc.
Yeah.
So I feel that there we can basically use LLM and integrate it with some authoritative. I believe in Ayurveda, so I would say that I can associate that with some authoritative text around Ayurveda,
Okay.
and that's how, like, I mean, any user, and we can maybe like basically integrate this with WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is something which like around like a lot of population in India is using WhatsApp, right? So it will
Yeah.
be much easier for them to post their queries and get a response. So
Okay.
like this could be a very good project, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
obviously the cost is a factor here. Like scaling to like billion of users, like that will
Mm-hmm.
be a huge cost. But yeah, like I mean, around business, we can convert this into business as well. But I think that's a later part can to think about. But basic thing is that if you want to help people uh, get the diagnosis faster, and some home remedies you want to recommend in a proper crisp manner, then I think LLMs would do a great job. And like we already have like some authoritative text, so we can link that. So this is just one use case, but I think there are multiple use cases around, let's say, insurance, like which is very crowded space for anyone to dive in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like going back, so you mentioned about using Copilot. Now this is something like many people are fearful, like it will take their job. So let's focus on this. Like,
Yeah.
how are you using Copilot, and what is your first impression about it?
So I think Copilot I have actually started using from last 1 week, but
Okay.
like I've heard from my colleagues as well as like what my personal experience is that just like Chat GPT, where let's say you post a part of the code and uh,
Hmm.
you ask with a prompt, right? Like what exactly do you want? Like how to append the code there, right?
Yeah.
So that part, I think in like conversation part in Copilot, I haven't used that. But generally, when you code in IDE, so while coding itself, it'll automatically generate some suggestions like what kind of, let's say, next few words or next few lines of codes should be there, right? So all of that it suggests, and like maybe if it's wrong, then you can basically select from multiple options, and if that is even wrong, like you just continue coding, and I think eventually it'll generate something which is much better to use, and maybe that you can modify. So that is something which seems much easier to do, like compared to copy pasting it to ChatGPT. And obviously, like this, I mean, there's a proprietary code, right? Like which we are coding, and like it's
Yeah.
not good to share it in
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ChatGPT. So all of that part is also there. So
Okay.
that's how, like, I think this is much better. And like you can also like put a comment, let's say, right? I mean, you have, let's say, written a lot of code, and now you want to just generate documentation around it. So that part is also very much easier with GitHub Copilot, and with comments, I think that, like, both ways it's much easier now.
Okay. And what kind of a skill set like one should learn to, be incorporated in a great AI team in today's scenario?
I feel like fundamentals is something which one should definitely like do at least once, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do your LA prop stats, all of that. You at least build the fundamentals properly,
Mm-hmm.
and then to take a course in, let's say, ML and then deep learning. So at
Okay.
least these courses should be. I mean, you can get a list of the popular topics amongst like all of these subjects, right? So you can just touch upon that, and uh, like basically in the first go, maybe try just get the concepts, and maybe in iterative way, like you try to code the algorithms or basic stuff, so that your understanding is very good here, right? Once you have that, then all of this fancy stuff, like whatever you are doing, like whatever, like let's say if you want to get into recommendation system, so
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of survey papers which you can go through quickly, and like implement some parts of it. Or if you, let's say, you are into LLMs, then you can go into like the basics of let's say NLP first, and use, I mean, some popular concepts are being used in under the hood, right? So you can just go through that and implement that. So but I would highly recommend that the basics should be solid before you proceed. Otherwise, there could be a problems. Like, I mean, if you're reading a paper and you, let's say, get some, I mean, that's another approach that if you are like using a top-down approach, right? You're reading papers, you get some concepts which you are not aware of. You can obviously search and go deeper into it. And but I think it's better, always better to have the basics, at least the basics.
Okay. And like, what are the key challenges one face as a part of AI team? Like, you can mention your challenges, what you face in your journey altogether.
So I think at Share, like before ShareChat was in academia. So in academic background, you don't get to work on, like industry scale data, and so all of that thing is there. Like once you get into like companies like ShareChat, like where you deal with huge data sets, right? So there, the skill sets you acquire is quite different. So I think in that process, there's a good learning curve, and but once you get that, things will be much easier. And like any new kind of data set you deal with, which is in progress, you will be able to get to the basics of it.
Okay. And being a part of AI team, like how one extract the data set for your task, like ground truths or
Um, so I think this is very much context dependent, but I would say that like before, people used to do scraping, like write scraping scripts and all of that, right?
Mhm.
That is still applicable. But I know like people from my batchmates from different industry, like different companies, like they use LLMs now for labeling their like let's say day-to-day data sets, and
Okay.
which is the quality of label is much better compared to what they used to do before, like from humans. Like I think they were like a team of people whom you would recommend that, like these if this comes, then you have to label this, right? So that like set of team would do the labeling task, but I think the accuracy was maybe if you if we take an example, like 80% is the accuracy. Now it's gone up to 90%. So it is much better and very very cheap. So I think, yeah, from that perspective, I feel LLMs are much better in case of. I mean, there are some intuitive examples. You
Mhm.
just do it, and then you'll be able to do the labeling much better.
Okay. And like when you mention especially in case of LLMs or in general AI, you mentioned about ad personalization. Like
Right.
how do you go through the evaluation? Like if LLM is giving out correct output, like what is the best method to evaluate it? Like if you do not have any ground truths.
Okay. Uh, I think like evaluation, as in like from my personal experience,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
personal.
anything, I mean, any code which let's say I provide and then ask for, generating for particular function
Mm.
for doing some task in that complete code, right? So my way of evaluating it is that whether it has achieved that thing properly or not. Sometimes our prompt which we supply is not descriptive enough for the model to generate a proper code. So in subsequent prompts, I basically refine that query which I am posting, right? That with the like more refined queries and much better like structured. If you provide some kind of samples and provide a structure there, then I think LLMs would be able to generate what you're looking for. So that's my personal take on it. But I think, yeah, definitely there might be thing, like if you're comparing, let's say, multiple LLM models,
Mm-hmm.
based on the output, I think there must be much better ways of doing this. But this is more of a qualitative feedback. Like once you get the output, if it's not what you're looking for, but it is very close to what you're looking for, right? Then you can basically refine your prompt, and I think LLMs would be able to generate something closer to what you're looking for.
And how do you track performance? Like what kind of tracking you do in while in production for the AI products?
Right, right. So again, this depends. So I think in case of ads, like what we have been using is
Mm-hmm.
like RCE, basically normalized cross entropy loss. So
Okay.
this is something which is the primary metric which we use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the label. Like if
Okay.
let's say user has clicked or not is one example, and what was the model? What has the model predicted? Right? Based on that, we compute RC scores.
Mm-hmm.
This is the primary metric, and we have secondary metrics. A lot of secondary metrics. I think more of let's say you generally use ROC UC to evaluate classifiers, qualitative, right? So we use that as well, and then there are some very I would say relatable metrics like what was the observed CTR in AB experiments and observed CVR and any defunnel metric which you have, right? So all of that you can observe as well as the revenue which is being generated, the CPI, like for every like install which has happened in let's
Mm-hmm.
say A versus B variant, then what was the cost associated with that? So all of these things we can use, but I think the primary metric which we use is RC.
Okay. And like this is such a fast moving landscape right now, AI
Yeah.
or Gen AI in general. So how do you ensure you are up to date with this evolving landscape of this field?
I think it totally depends on. I mean, you should definitely dedicate some time every day. Like if let's say you are working from 10 to 5 or 6, right?
Okay.
Then you should not like you should be very efficient with whatever office work you are doing.
Okay.
Try to complete it as soon as possible, and if there are dependencies, maybe resolve it and complete it ASAP, right? And if I mean there will always be some good tools or good methodologies which you if you follow, then you will be able to achieve your task quickly, right? Once you do that, then you have ample amount of time to like whatever like list of items you have written, right, like which you want to complete, so that you can touch upon one by one. So that is one suggestion, and I think it's always best. It's not always possible, but it's always best if you can get challenging tasks at work, right? If that's possible and it aligns with your interest, then
Yeah.
that's the best to grasp any new tech, right? But I think it's not always possible, so I think it's better to do some. You complete the task quickly and then parallelly do something which you want to do.
Yeah, basically make time for the new things in this field apart
Correct.
from the task.
Yeah, yeah, and create a list, and then whatever raises your curiosity in your day-to-day life or conversations with your friends and everything, right? So you just jot it down, and maybe one by one, based on priority, you can pick one stuff and like clear it out. And I think best way is to follow maybe. I mean, let's say if I'm taking an example in Rexis, if you want to build your background properly, right? If you're working in that domain itself, and you foresee that for next 5 years, 10 years, you will be working there. So definitely, I think like there is a proper conference Rexis for where people publish their papers, right? So every year there are very good papers which are published. So you can just make it a habit that maybe a gist of it you read, and if it interests you, then you can later on like go into depths.
Okay. So since you mentioned about reading, so do you recommend any like courses or some Twitter threads or some personality like to follow, like an article you read, like if you are doing that, you
Like
can.
I personally, I personally like go via papers.
Okay.
I basically follow conferences and
Okay.
engineering blogs.
Okay.
So all of that I refer generally, and sometimes there are some very good like YouTube videos or some very good course which comes up. So but I generally like refrain from going through a lot of videos because it takes a lot of time to.
Yeah.
So I think it's better to go. like from my perspective, like it's much faster to go
Okay.
via blogs and papers.
Okay.
So that's how I maintain that. And yes, like if there is something, I mean, anything you read, try to maintain a gist of it. Like once you read it, then try to capture some few points like which you learned from, let's say, reading a paper or reading a blog, which would be useful later on in your work or anything you are doing, right? So that way you'll be able to retain that information, and like there are a lot of apps where you can maintain that. Or yeah, I think that would be better.
Okay. Great. So Aditya, I think we have covered everything. So any parting thoughts before we end this episode?
Um, Yeah, I would say that stay curious. I think or like this field definitely is a lot of things are happening here. So stay curious and like whatever work you are doing, if for my, like in case of my work, right, I'm doing recommendation system. So I personally feel that I should have very good information in Access. So like I try to keep myself updated, at least in this domain, and anything which is related to this field, and there's a boom in that, right? Like it's always better to like at least read some stuff about it, and if that is there in your work, then and that's the best part of it. So yeah, I think like just stay curious and keep yourself updated, at least on the work you are doing, and I think rest, all of it will be fine.
Okay. So that's all for today, folks. Hope you loved listening to Aditya and had great insights from this episode. Please leave your questions in the comments and we will reach out to Aditya to answer those for you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, thanks, thanks,